It's that time for the Rutledge Perspective Radio Show live on the historic KCOH TV radio station, The Boost in Houston, Texas. And I'm your host, Laura Rutledge, and I can't wait for the show to start. Because spending Tuesday mornings with you is a highlight of my week. And if you're listening or watching on one of my pages or platforms, please be sure to give StreamYard permission to see your name, so that way I can see your comments. And since I know we have a national audience and a global audience, let me know where you're tuning in from so I can give you a shout out on the air. It is really humbling and I'm honored that you are choosing to spend time with me today. So, can't wait to talk to you. I got to run so I can get ready. See you soon. It's
Morning,
that time for the Rutledge Perspective Radio Show live
ready
on the historic KCOH TV radio station, The Boost.
And I've got a new setup here, so we'll see how this goes today. I'm so excited. The Rutledge Perspective Radio Show live. So glad y'all are tuning in today as we do our little intro here, and then we'll get started. So always so happy to spend Tuesdays with y'all. And my new little intro commercial is kind of cool. So we're gonna get rocking. I'm gonna talk about this thing today. So if y'all haven't heard it, good morning, Deanna. I'm so glad you're listening. Yay! I'm gonna be talking about this book today in the context of counting on yourself. I love this song. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So I hope you guys can hear me. Deanna, let me know if y'all can hear me. I got a new setup. So I got a new mic and new stuff. So hopefully it's coming through okay. Here at the historic KCOH TV radio station, The Boost in Houston, Texas. I'm so excited to be here and spend this Tuesday with y'all. And we're going to talk about counting on yourself and how that manifests in leadership, right? So we're going to talk about that. But before we do that, I always talk about voting. Always talk about voting. So today is a busy voting day in the U.S., a very busy voting day in the U.S. California, you've got a school district vote. Georgia, District 45. That's coming up for y'all. Actually, there's so many that I actually printed out this time instead of trying to write it down. And so Georgia, y'all have District 45 House vote. And then in Indiana, you have their statewide primary today. Indiana, get out and vote. Statewide primary today in Indiana. Massachusetts, you have a city council, District 1, special general election. Michigan, okay. Michigan, y'all are just making it happen this morning. Good morning, Reverend Wright. Thank you, Deanna, for letting me know. Lansing School District, Michigan House of Representatives, District 14, District 36, and District 74. Y'all are voting today, District 43. You guys are voting today, as well as Leelanau County Commissioner, Michigan Township, Sydney Township, Lee Township. Michigan, y'all are all over the place. So please get out and vote today. Michigan, Ohio, you guys have a statewide primary, right? I'm assuming you have either early voted or you're going out. Ohio, you have a statewide primary today. And Tennessee, you've got lots of school elections today. Clarksville, Montgomery County School, Rutherford County Schools, Williamson County, Shelby County, Knox County, Hamilton County, Metropolitan Nashville Public Schools, and then Nashville, Tennessee has a primary going on today. So please go out and vote. Now, Texas, we have our special election, statewide special election on May 7th. Statewide special election on May 7th. Remember, I told you guys it was early voting, I believe until the 5th. So until Friday, and then election day is on the 7th. I may have those dates wrong. So double check. And early voting, you can go to any polling place. If it's on voting day, you have to go to your designated polling place. We know that there's some shady shenanigans going on right now. So make sure that you have your voter ID card. Make sure you are getting registered to vote. Make sure you know where your polling place is. Make sure you know what the ballot looks like. Get all of your information before you show up, and then show up. Show up to vote. Show up to vote. It is so important. It is so important. And especially these school board elections, because I'm telling you guys, there are people who are making a concerted effort to put people on school boards who are into banning books, making sure that they're taking over the curriculum, not educators who have been trained on curriculum design, but that these parents and others with specific agendas are taking over the public school systems for everybody, the entire population. And we know what's been happening in the public eye around the rhetoric, not only CRT, but also banning books and all of this kind of just craziness. Okay. So please pay attention to your school board elections. Pay attention to your school board elections. Elections start local. School boards, county commissioners, city councils, mayors, all of those kind of things. It starts local. Please make sure you're paying attention to what's going on in your local system so that we can start there and then be also preparing people to be able to run for larger offices. Although we saw example of apparently you don't need to have any experience to run for the highest office in the land. We've also seen the downside of not having any experience when you run for the highest office in the land. So it was if you take your emotion out of it, it was a study in questionable leadership. Let's put it that way. So, and the impact of leadership globally, right? That's the bigger point. It is truly a study in leadership and how leadership impacts not only those around them, but can have far-reaching impacts. So, unemotional, non-political, it is a study in leadership. So is what's happening right now, right, with the administration. There's a study in leadership going on. So, vote, 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 vote. Okay. All right. Now, it is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I'm really excited about this. You guys know, I believe in therapy. If you see something, say something. If you need support, go ask for support. There is no shame in asking for help. We are way beyond that. We need to get over it. There is no shame in asking for help. Please go seek help. And the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, they changed that a while ago from the hotline to the Lifeline. National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 832-416-1177. That's the general line, 832-416-1177. I'm sorry, that's the Houston hotline. Let me go back. The national hotline is 800-273-8255. National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 800-273-8255. What I love about that and love about what they're doing is not only did they change the name to the Lifeline, but they also are now starting July 16th. There will be a new 3-digit number to get immediately to the Lifeline. It is going to be 988. Apparently there are some places, some cities around the country that can already use 988, but starting on July 16th, 988 will become the line, the number to dial to get directly to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 988. Now, the numbers I was giving you before, Harris County Mental Health Services. The hotline is 832-416-1177. If you are a teen, 832-416-1199, or you can text teens 281-201-4430. Okay, so mental health awareness, one of the good things, I guess, that's come out of the pandemic is a renewed focus on our mental health, mental and emotional well-being, and our physical well-being, right? Because the COVID weight loss and gain was a big deal. So people started paying more attention to their health, really thinking about what they were eating, where they were eating, all these kind of things, because we had to cook at home. But the mental health strain, the emotional and psychological strain is real. And so please take care of yourselves. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk about what I'm talking about today, counting on you. You can count on you. So, podcast drops tomorrow. So every Wednesday, the podcast drops. So that drops tomorrow, short and sweet. I always try to keep those short, 15, 20 minutes max, unless I'm interviewing somebody, and then it's a little bit longer. Keep those short and sweet. And then on Thursday night, 7 p.m. on Fireside, I will have my live podcast that goes live there every Thursday, 7 p.m. Central Time. I'll actually be broadcasting from out of town on Thursday. But Thursday night, 7 p.m. Central Time, Fireside. If you still need access, firesidechat.com/Laurel Rutledge. It's all on all my social. And I'll be posting some more about that too, to let you guys know. So please request access early. Firesidechat.com/Laurel Rutledge. You do need an iOS device in order to jump in the audience and to ask questions. And that's what I love about it being live. You can get on stage, you can get on video, ask questions, make comments, engage with me, right, for the podcast. That's going to be live Thursday, 7 p.m. Central Time on Fireside. So I'll be posting that. Okay, let's talk about counting on yourself. So there's this book that I picked up. So y'all see my hair, it's getting summer. So I had to get my hair twisted because it's just too hot. And so I had my appointment, and we had a little delay in the appointment. And so I decided to stop at Barnes and Noble. And because I had my Kindle with me, but I thought, let me stop at Barnes and Noble and just see what's out there, because I love a good bookstore. And I picked up this book, Call Me Chef, damn it. And it's Andre Rush, right? And a veteran's journey from the rural South to the White House. And that's what caught me, a veteran's journey from the rural South to the White House. I just have a place in my heart for vets. And we'll be having a veteran on Fireside Show in June. So I'm really excited about that. He runs Go Heroes. And I was honored to be on his podcast. And so he's going to have him on Fireside soon. I'll let you know about that. But this book is about Andre Rush. And he did end up being a chef at the White House. He was in the Army for many, many years. I think his top rank was Master Sergeant. And so he was enlisted the whole time. And he's got a really interesting story. So it does have some tragedy in the very beginning. And the book is not rainbows and unicorns. I mean, there's some really tough stuff. But what was tough to me about this book is that he talked a lot about the way his leaders engaged him in the military, right? And how much rank played a role, both good and bad, in some of the people that he ran across. And this is a guy who very much is going to learn. At one point they called him Horse, just call me Horse, right? Because he is so big. You see 24-inch biceps. You can see the picture, right? 24-inch biceps there. Fitness is his thing. Cooking is his thing. And he has said in the book, cooking saved him. Suffered from PTSD. He was in Iraq. But he had some amazing things to say. And so I recommend the book, but it is kind of dark. And so one of the first thing that caught me, this was midway through the book. So I literally read this in 2 sittings. When you count me out, you discredit my mindset. You discredit my drive. You discredit my ability to succeed. You discredit my resiliency and my passion. Me out. And in this part of the book, he was just talking about just the fact that he's this really, really big Black guy, right? I mean, there is no question. The dude is huge, and clearly Black, right? Not kind of, sort of, clearly. And so he would talk about how when he would go on interviews to get the next promotion or to be part of the Pentagon culinary staff. He was on the Pentagon team. He was in the Pentagon when 9/11 happened. And he talks about that in the book. And he says it's the first time he's ever talked about it. And there's still some things that he will not talk about. And he's very vocal about that. And he says, there are still some things that I will never share. And so he was in the Pentagon, and he talked about how, when he was getting that role, when people were talking to him about that role, when people were talking to him about some other roles, and one of the roles he had at West Point, one of the generals that came in who really mistreated him, very ego driven, right? Really mistreated him, because here's the deal. He liked being behind the scenes. Really like being behind the scenes. I get that. That's why I so related to him. He didn't have any need to be in front of the camera. That was just not his deal. But he was going to watch you really close, and he was going to learn, because he learned early that people weren't always going to help you. So he learned how to help himself. He learned how to count on himself. And so, as he was talking about some of these situations he was in, I got to thinking, when you are in an environment, a corporate environment in particular, that can be really toxic. And he talks about how toxic masculinity, right? How toxic the military can be from a leadership perspective. And there's a chapter on leadership as well. When I was thinking about his whole thought about counting on you, and when I think about last week and all these things that have been going on and Fireside and Mental Health Awareness Month and all this kind of stuff, at the end of the day, none of us comes into this life alone, right? And if we are lucky, we don't leave it alone. And we don't get through this life alone. We just don't. And yet, at some level, if you don't count on anybody else, you've got to count on you. You have got to be your best bet. I think it was Lisa Nichols one time that says, when you talk about horse racing and all that kind of stuff, she said, you always bet on the best horse. She said, I'm always going to bet on me. I know me. So my best bet is me. And I believe that you are always your best bet because nobody knows you better than you. Nobody knows you better than you. And where this ties into not only leadership, but also to mental health month and this incredible book is part of us being able to count on ourselves is knowing ourselves well enough to know, giving ourselves enough grace, like I talked last week, and having enough self-love that when we need help, we ask for it. We seek it out. We remember who we are and whose we are. We don't get caught up in the corporate gaslighting because that's what happens, right? When I talk about counting on you, I think back to the times over my career, and I was in corporate a very long time, nearly 30 years. Over my career, the number of times I would leave a meeting or I would leave a presentation or I would leave some engagement with people and be thinking, okay, now wait, I don't know what happened. Did I misspeak? Did I lose my ability to communicate? I know I'm not crazy. I know that's what they said before, because I'm one of those people, we have a conversation, we make a decision, I'm moving. So when you decide later on that you want something different or you've changed your mind or you've just got other agendas and you just decide that you're not going to be truthful, which is another thing that happens in the book, then I'm already down the road. It is undoing stuff at that point. Because see, we've had the conversation, we've made an agreement. So you're going back on the agreement is problematic because we already had a plan and I'm moving. And in those moments, it's very easy, especially for those of us who don't, we don't seek the limelight. We're just trying to do the right thing and make some stuff happen. It is easy in those moments, especially when they occur a lot and you're moving fast and you're just trying to do the best you can. And you're really good at what you do. You do begin to question, wait a minute, did I misunderstand? Did I do this wrong? Was there something that you begin to have all of those conversations with yourself. And what happens is you begin to undermine your own genius. You begin to undermine your own capability, your intellect, your absolute intelligence and competence and confidence. Because you're in an environment that says, yeah, you just thought that's what it was, right? How many of us have been in those situations where we say, look, this is how this impacted me. That's not what they meant. Or maybe you just misinterpreted it. Or you just took that too personal. It wasn't personal. How many of us have had those conversations? Gaslighting at its finest, right? Negating someone else's real lived experiences because perception is reality, right? Real lived experiences, because either you don't want to be accountable, or you don't want to address the issues at hand, or worse yet, you just don't care about this person. You just as soon see him flame out. That happens more often than not. In fact, I would venture to say it happens all the time. And so through this pandemic, one of the things that we have seen is, unfortunately, really bad leaders became worse leaders because they couldn't put their thumb on people. People were at home. They couldn't lead when you're right in front of them. How are they going to lead when they've got to be even clearer and set clear expectations and put stuff in writing, right? And be on video and everybody's seeing it. And people, it's a whole lot different. And then great leaders became exceptional leaders. People who already knew how to connect, who knew what it meant to be clear, right? It's not unkind to be clear, to check on people, to understand that people have lives outside of that job they're doing for you. People are doing all kinds of things. Their lives didn't start when they walk across that threshold every day. There's a whole lot of stuff. And some people are running 4 marathons before they even get to the door to run the race you want them to run that day. So they're starting from a deficit. So great leaders actually had the opportunity to become exceptional leaders in this pandemic because they understood the assignment. But here's the deal. While we spent all of this time at home, right, and we had to figure out what was important, and so many of us realigned what was really important for us. What are the things we wanted to focus on? What were the things that really meant something to us? Many of us refocused on that. That's why you're seeing people now say it's not the great resignation, right? It's the great realignment, which works for me because y'all know I'm all about alignment, vision, and action. It's the great realignment. What it means is it gave us all a chance to pause because we didn't have a choice. Gave us all a chance to sit still a little bit and figure out, wait a minute, this is crazy. I have been on this hamster wheel for X number of years, and this is insane. It's insane. What's really important to me? What are my deal breakers? What things can I tolerate? How can I continue to learn and grow and give and develop, right? Use my gifts, make an impact. How can I continue to do that and have a life? So this realignment also is an ability to think again about how we can count on ourselves, how we get back to who we are and what our genius is, because we all have it. We all have it. And it's very easy for organizations. Okay, it is raining in Houston, Texas. Didn't know it was going to rain. It is easy for organizations we're in, companies we work for, nonprofits we support, any of those kind of things where we are engaging with other people. It is really, really easy for us to lose ourselves in that and get so caught up in doing everything for everybody else that we forget that we need to do some things for ourselves, and we get ourselves caught up in what everyone else feels our value is or the feedback we get around the work we're doing. You know, Chef Andre talked about that too. He spent his whole life was all about doing and being exceptional. He didn't show up to not be exceptional. He was going to give 100% or more every single time. He was going to have everything under control. But what that meant and what he realized, and what I think many of us have realized, is that focus on being exceptional, that focus on excellence is admirable and is necessary and is definitely a part of how many of us are wired. And because both things can be true, and it can be a slippery slope. Because if your expectations of excellence become expectations of perfection, when your excellence all of a sudden becomes an inability to say no, and people around you are going to let you take on as much as you possibly can. People will let you say yes to stuff all day long because that means they don't have to do it. And so you find your desire to be excellent turning into an overbearing, overburdened, big weight to carry. And you start to see diminishing returns, what they call it, the law of diminishing returns. You work and 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 work, and you're not sleeping, and you're not resting, and you're not eating, and you're not doing the things you need to do to feed you. And ultimately, you get to the point where you just can't give as much, or when you do give, it's not nearly in the same quality as you always have. So part of counting on yourself is understanding and recognizing and being very self-aware so that when things start to move differently for you, you can change and regroup and readjust how you are showing up, because you know you can count on you. You can count on you to be excellent. You can count on you to be honest. You can count on you to say, you know what, I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out. And then figure it out. You have to be able to bet on you, because at the end of the day, I think one of the things he said is, you know, if you're focused on the money, when the money goes away, then what have you got? Right? If you're focused on the impact you make, right, then you can really think through, wait, I'm seeing the impact not be as great. Maybe I need to regroup. Maybe I need to reassess. Maybe I need to rest. Maybe I need to do something different if I want my impact to continue. But if we don't really focus on the knowledge and the belief that we can count on ourselves, that we have what we need, right? Remember my mantra, trust yourself. In this moment, you are enough. In this moment, you have everything that you need. That's counting on yourself. That's saying, you know what? I don't know what's going to happen today, I don't know what the world is going to throw at me today, but I can count on me to make it through. That doesn't mean I'm never going to have pain. That doesn't mean I'm never going to fail. That doesn't mean it's never going to be hard. None of that is true. None of that is true. Something is always going to show up that's going to be hard or painful or unexpected. Always. It's called life. And if you can count on you, if you know you, then you are prepared to address or respond to any of that stuff that comes up. I've been really spending a lot of time lately. I think I told you guys before about Fawn Weaver. And so I'm really, y'all send up some prayers. I'm really believing I'm going to have her on Fireside. And one of the things she talks about in her interview with Guy Raz is her box me in prayer. I've talked about this on the show before, her box me in prayer. And she uses it when she's got to make a really big decision and she's kind of waffling and she's trying to decide what to do. And I think it's great when you're talking about counting on yourself, because she's another one. She's like, I know me. I can count on me, because there's no question. I don't question me about me, right? And she said, with the box me in prayer, it is, Lord, if it is not meant for me, close it so tight that I can't open it. If it is, open it so wide that no man can close it. Now, here's the problem with that prayer. You got to give up control. You got to give up control if you really want to say that. If it's meant for me, let no man take it away, right? And if it's not, don't let me get at it. Because we often want things that really aren't meant for us at the time, or we want them in the time we want them and not when the time that they're meant. And so if you are really counting on you, you also can count on the timing. You can sit comfortably in a season. The season itself may be uncomfortable, but you can sit in the comfort of knowing that you are in a season and that you have the skill, the ability, the desire, and the heart to do whatever it takes in that season to either grow and manifest and harvest, right? Or to sit still and to learn, or all of the above. Because some seasons are just learning seasons, and those are painful. Some seasons are harvest seasons, and those are beautiful. And some seasons are pruning seasons, and those are painful too. Because sometimes you just got to cut some stuff off. You've got to regroup, and you got to get really, really simple. And one of the hardest things to do is to be simple. And you've got to do that you've got to be simple with you too. When you are counting on you, it's got to be really simple and really clear. I know me. I know that I'm always going to show up. I'm going to do the best of my ability to be prepared. And I am going to be who I am all the time. That's who they're going to see. I don't have to make something up. I don't have to remember some lie I told somebody, because the more lies you tell, the more stuff you have to remember. And my brain's just not that big. So I can count on me to show up. I can count on me to do everything I can, right? And when you count on you, here's the other piece of that question or that statement that just hit me as I'm talking to you, because it is one of the things that I have to work on constantly. Notice I said I can count on me to show up. I can count on me to serve with excellence. I can count on me to always be who I am. I can count on me to do that all the time. What's surrounding that entire diatribe is for other people. Everybody can count on me to show up. They can count on me to be there. They can count on me to be honest. They can count on me to drop nuggets, right? They can count on me to do that. Absolutely. You can count on me to jump in when necessary. You can count on me to make things happen. You can count on me. I can count on me to make sure that happens. I need to be just as adamant all of the time that I can count on me to show up for me. And the same for you. You have got to be just as determined to show up for you, including seeking help when you need it. There is no shame in asking for help. You know, that's one of the things when I think about it too long, I get so frustrated, because that's one of the challenges, right, for our military, is really making sure that, and Reverend Wright, I know you served as well, so thank you for your service, is the kind of work that has had to be done to ensure that our veterans get the care that they need, not just physical medical care, but mental health services. And still the shame, depending on where you are, right? Which branch you're in, which journal you get, which general you get, which colonel you get, which whatever, right? Depending on where you are, the stigma that can be attached to you're simply asking for help, for simply asking for help. And I do believe, I have to believe that that is changing. I think it might be a longer road to hoe in the military, and in some other places as well, right? Not just the military. But I have to believe that it's changing because that's one of the things that we learned through this pandemic is the precarious nature of our mental health and the impact of that on not only ourselves, but on everyone else around us. And especially for those who are in service, who are built for service. I am here to serve. I know my purpose is to serve, to make an impact. And for those of us who are really focused on that, sometimes we lose sight of service to ourselves. We can be so adamant about serving everyone else that we forget. Or worse yet, we feel we don't deserve the same service and insight and care and compassion as we give to others, which is a fallacy. You have to put your mask on first. You have to put your mask on first in order to be able to serve everybody else. It's a critical piece of survival, right? If we really think about survival at its core, the raw animal survival, it's you or me, right? We lost some of that as we became humans and live in communities. We lost a little bit of that, in that we look to the greater pack, as they say, right? We look to the bigger community. But it's important for us to continue, and even if we haven't continued it, to start counting on ourselves by supporting ourselves and having compassion for ourselves and sitting outside of judgment for ourselves. Because I know I can be really judgy about me. I am the queen of judgment for Laurel Rutledge. The queen, right? You don't have to tell me where something went wrong or how it showed up, because I know already. Because I have evaluated and reevaluated and reassessed and redone and rewritten multiple times before you even noticed I was in the room. That's just the way my mind works, right? That's the way I have just nurtured myself, I guess, right? It's an unintended consequence of being raised with high levels of accountability. And I believe in being accountable. It's important to be accountable for your actions, right? It is important to be accountable for your actions. That's part of the problem I believe we have in society today. Nobody wants to be accountable for the stuff that they do. They want to blame it on everybody else. But it's important to be accountable. The downside of extreme accountability is an inability to give grace. It's an inability to understand that circumstances do play a role in outcomes, right? You are accountable for your response to that. You're accountable for your own actions. You're not able to be accountable for nor control everything that happens to you. You're only able to be in control of and accountable for how you respond to the things that happen to you, how you respond to the opportunities that come your way, how you prepare for those, how you get yourself ready to be able to count on you when the time arises, right? It's really important that we're able to do that. Because at some level, you have got to know you and be able to count on what you're saying, be able to believe what you're saying, be able to believe that you are the best human you can possibly be. Notice I didn't say you are the best human you can possibly be, so that you can serve in ways that impact positively the world and the people around you. And that requires being able to count on yourself, which requires good, supportive mental support and mental health, which requires so much self-love that you're willing to ask for it. And therein lies the challenge for many of us, right? That we've been raised to just do it. You just make it happen. Just make it happen. And asking for help is a weakness. That's why we've got all this toxic stuff going around, right? Ask for help. And here's the deal. what I have found through corporate is there's so many people who really do need some help, really could use the guidance, the support, the direction, and are afraid to ask because there are so many, up to the 80-20 rule, right? There are so many others who ask for help because they just don't want to do it. And so you don't want to get lumped in with that, right? Or get lumped in with incompetence, get lumped in with incapability, have it show up on your performance review as you're not capable when that's far from the truth. When what you're asking for is real help and support. That's what it is. That's all it is. I just need a little bit of support. That's what you're looking for. And so if you're going to be able to count on yourself, you got to be able to count on understanding when you really do need to ask for that help. It's okay to ask for that help because none of us gets through this alone. I mean, the other thing that he talked about, let me see if I think I bookmarked it. He called the chapter, it was chapter 9. He called the chapter Toxic Leadership, Cowards, and Butt Kissers. He used another word. And he started it with this quote from General Douglas MacArthur that said, "A true leader has the confidence to stand alone, the courage to make tough decisions, and the compassion to listen to the needs of others. He does not set out to be a leader, but becomes one by the equality of his actions and the integrity of his intent." You hear what I'm saying? So when we talk about this whole idea of being able to count on yourself and how that shows up in leaders, if you are in a leadership position, because again, leadership is about behavior, not position. But if you happen to be in a leadership position, you've got to be able to count on yourself to be able to support your team, because leadership is about getting things done through and with other people. So you've got to be able to count on you so that other people can count on you to be able to do the things that they need to do to ultimately achieve the desired outcomes. And part of that, as you heard in that quote from MacArthur, is being intentional about understanding what your team needs. One of the stories he talks about is a soldier that he mentored who ultimately ended up committing suicide because one of these generals, who was a total jerk, sent this person back to a place they weren't supposed to be before they had finished their treatment. And I just, off the top of my head, I cannot remember the name of it. It was a really traumatic event. And so he got deployed to another base to be able to, he and his family, to be able to seek counseling. And they were not going to put him back in this place where this tragic event occurred. And yet this one general, because the general had no care or concern about this individual, was only cared about himself and probably wanted to get back at Chef Andre, sent the person back. And within a certain period of time, the person actually committed, the soldier actually committed suicide. And which is one of the tough stories here. And actually triggered Chef Andre to do some additional soul searching and really seek some help as well. Because he couldn't own that, even though he felt really responsible for that. He couldn't own that. And of course, the general that did it certainly wasn't going to own it, although tried to show up, and send flowers and all this kind of madness. Because that's the other thing, toxic leadership. When you are counting on yourself so that others can count on you, they are watching you. And toxic leaders, I would argue, aren't counting on themselves. They are pumping up themselves. Toxic leaders aren't about having people count on them or counting on themselves to do the right thing for the organization. They are counting on themselves to get the next promotion through whatever means necessary. That's toxic leadership. That is leadership that has no intent of supporting, uplifting, counseling, sponsoring anyone else. It's toxic leadership. In fact, will go out of their way to do the exact opposite. Will go out of their way to ensure that no one gets in their circle of leadership. No one can undermine the glow that they're under. That's toxic leadership. That's the whole gaslighting thing, right? That's the, hey, we had this meeting. This is what we agreed to. That's not what we said. And I had a moment like that. We had agreed upon something. We were getting ready to make a presentation. I'll never forget this moment. We were getting ready to make a presentation to the global board of directors. The CEO of the global organization was coming in town along with one of the other board members. We were making a presentation to them about this process we were putting in place. We'd done all the work. My team had done all the work. And it was tough because there were things that it was like, nobody's going to want to do that. And I'm like, well, this ain't my first rodeo. People will want to do that. But because they've never seen it before, right? The downside of having a very long tenured organization with not only a long tenured organization, but a long tenured organization with people who have no exposure to anything else and don't want it, right? Not even getting out in the community and seeing other things and hearing other things. They believe if they haven't seen it, it's not possible. So we were going to put this thing in place, which actually, once it was implemented, actually being exactly what I said it was going to be. See, this is why I never have to say I told you so, because we had the conversations very early. So we had this thing ready to go, put the presentation together to go to the board, sent it to the CEO and said, here's the presentation. Just want to make sure you see it before we go and have this conversation. Oh my God, this is not what we talked about. We need to get on lost it. Now, by then I just had it, right? This was close to the end when I decided to just leave. And finally I walked in his office and said, you know what? Just tell me what you want. This is exactly what we talked about. You don't remember that? Fine. I don't have the energy anymore. Just tell me what you want. No. Because I'm not having this conversation. These are literally my words. I am not having this conversation anymore. What do you want to put in the presentation? That is what we'll put in the presentation. That's what we'll talk about. Period. The end. We don't have to talk to anybody. We don't have to get anybody on the phone. None of that. I'm done. Just tell me what you want. No. We're going to get people on the phone. Fine. So by this point I was tired of talking. So I stopped talking. Got all the other leaders on the phone who had been in the design, and a couple of them, well, yeah, I don't remember that. Finally, someone spoke up and said, no, this is exactly what we agreed to. This is exactly what we put in front. This is exactly what we said, because if y'all remember, here was the conversation, right? Now, again, I'm silent at this point, silent. So the CEO finally looks at me and said, yeah, I guess you're right. Okay, let's just change it. I'm like, okay. Went back, changed it, did the thing, right? Actually ended up using it. They ended up using it globally and all kinds of stuff, right? It ended up being a really great success. But in that moment, it was that gaslighting craziness. Like I had lost my mind. Like I was completely incompetent. I had no idea what was going on. I had misunderstood. All of that was untrue. All of that was untrue. And had I not been able to count on myself, that would have completely crushed me. I would have been in that mode of, oh my God, did I miss it? What did I say? How did I? But I learned a long time ago, especially in this organization, I learned a long time ago to CYA. I learned a long time ago. Here's what we said. I'm confirming in writing. And that's why organizations, when you have a lot of people that keep doing per our conversation, that's because you've got an organization that they can't trust. When you start seeing emails per our conversation, as we discussed, here's what instead of, here's just a rundown of the meeting, our notes from the meeting, right? When you start seeing words like per our discussion, as we discussed, per my last email, you've got an organization that has some trust issues because you've got behavior that is misaligned. You've got a lack of integrity in your organization. So we went through that, got through all of that thing. Later on, we had another conversation where we had submitted something globally. Someone came back, not to me, but to the head of finance and said, well, y'all didn't do this and they didn't do that and y'all are lying and blah, 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 blah. Called me. I happened to be in Germany at the time. Called me, Laurel, this is what they're saying, blah, blah, blah. And I said, all of that is untrue. All of that is untrue. And well, fine. I went back, dug up emails. And I said, not only is it untrue, but you sat in the meeting when we made this decision. And you know why we had to make this decision, because this was around some payroll stuff. You know why we had to make this decision. And by the way, let me forward you the emails where the person who's now saying we didn't do what we were supposed to do actually approved and said, absolutely, it's the right thing. So help me understand why this is an issue. That was it, right? So that counting on yourself, if I had not counted on me, if I didn't know me, there would have been so much more fallout from that particular stay for me in this organization, especially the last 2 years. The fallout would have been so much worse. And I also, because I could count on me, knew when it was time to say, I'm done. No hard feelings. I wasn't angry. I wasn't upset. I wasn't screaming and yelling. None of that. I was just done. And that's the other reason, when you have perfect peace, it's time. You're making the right decision. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew I wasn't going to do that. And sometimes for those of you who are trying to make a decision, let me tell you this, and hear me clearly, because sometimes we get really nervous about this. If the only thing you know is what you're doing right now is not it, that is a start. You don't have to know the answer today. All you have to know is that what's going on right now, what's happening right now, what you're doing right now, what you're feeling right now, who you're working with right now is not it. And that you need to do something different or be somewhere different. And then you can start doing the hard work of evaluating what that means, who you are, where you are, what you want, and what it's going to take to get there. But the first piece of that is this isn't it. And it's okay if the only thing you know right now is what you're doing is not it. You can count on yourself to know that. You can count on yourself to know that. So in a minute, we're getting ready to do our shout outs for the week, for the show. Yeah, I got Jerry here and I got Rib Right. So I'm trying to bring a word. Trying to bring a word. But I think it's really important when I started thinking about this whole idea of counting on you, at first the same for me. Yes, Deanna, that's enough to make the leap. When I started thinking about this, I had to pause, because I talk a lot about the fact that you do have to have other people. You got to think about it. You want to be engaged. You want to be connected. All of these kind of things. And those are true. Those things are true. None of us gets through this world alone. You need mentors. You need advocates. You need your own board of directors. You need your village. It's the reason I call it a village. You need your village. And at the end of the day, you have to count on you. You have to. Because the persons that you're going to sleep with at night, the thoughts that you are thinking are yours. Ain't nobody in your head but you. Nobody's in your heart but you. Nobody knows your motives, your true motives, but you. So you've got to be able to count on you. All right, we're going to pause and do some shout outs.
Okay. Globally, we have Helsinki.
Are you on? Is your mic on?
Yep. Globally, we have Helsinki is on today.
Yay!
We have Monterey on today.
Yay!
Changa One on today. Frankfurt is on today. We have Germany on today. Finland on today. France. There is a name on here that's new and I can't pronounce.
Okay.
So,
we'll
we
figure it
have
out.
Mexico,
Yeah.
Malaysia, United Kingdom, Argentina.
Showing up.
Puerto Rico
Morning, Mommy.
is in the building today. Pittsburgh is in the building. New York, St. Louis, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, San Antonio,
Yay.
Kansas City, Chicago, Dallas, Fort Worth,
Yay.
and Houston in mass numbers.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank y'all so much. Good morning, Mom. Good morning, Mama Young. Thank y'all so much for being on the show. So we got about 10 more minutes. And yeah, if there's some more comments or something anywhere, please let me know, Jerry. But let me show you this book again. So, and I'll put it in my thing. Call Me Chef. Call Me Chef, damn it. Chef Andre Rush. Chef Andre, I know, 24-inch biceps. I know, but he worked for those. And he talks, that's part of his story too, that he talks about that. And that whole idea of how you look, just how you show up, the skin that you're in gives people a chance to make a decision, right? Depending on who you read, depending on the research you read, people make a decision on you in the first 6 or the first 16 seconds, right? Depending on the research that you're reading. That's not a lot of time for people to decide. And even though we can count on ourselves, right? The other piece of counting on ourselves is knowing what we need to do to show up to be taken seriously. He talks about how he would go into interviews and never take his jacket off. Never take his jacket off. And the one time he was speaking with the general that the general insisted that he take his jacket off, because the guy who was telling him that, he said, don't take your jacket off. Don't take your jacket off. Don't take your jacket off. He's like, fine, I get it. The general finally insisted, well, he pulled rank, right? So he had to take it off. He said, I knew the minute I took it off, I'd lost the position, because it was about ego. They saw 24-inch biceps, right? They saw this big black guy who could probably beat his butt, Yeah, I can't have him on my staff because see, he's going to be better than me. He's going to get all the attention. He's going to, all of this kind of stuff, right? That had nothing to do with Chef Andre and had everything to do with the other person across the table, which is another reason why you've got to be able to count on you. Because most of the time, yeah, I'm going to use that word, most of the time, if you are self-aware and if you are on your P's and Q's, when you get some of that real crazy stuff, that's got nothing to do with you and everything to do with that person across the table. That's on them. That's their ego. That's their hang up. That's their madness. Now, the challenge is all of that stuff that's their noise can impact you, right? Can have consequences for you, like missed opportunities because somebody else was scared. Somebody else was intimidated. Somebody else was uncomfortable with your genius, uncomfortable that you knew more than they knew. I don't know how many times I've heard, well, I can't hire them because they know more than I know. You guys heard Dr. Tyra Williams on the show a few weeks ago, and she talked about a situation there that she had where, you know, they wouldn't even give her her appropriate title because, but then people will think that you're running it, not me. Really? And why does that matter? Because I know you're running it and you know you're running it. So what does everybody else think have to do with the price of tea in China? Right? So, you know, Chef Andre talks about those kind of things too. He's like, and he tells people, I am here to make you look good because that's my job. My job is to make you look good. My job is not about me. I do my stuff on the side, right? I do my stuff for me outside of this. My job is to make you look good. And still you have people who, even when you say that, even when you act in that way, even when you are true to that, still don't get it. They are still so scared, so intimidated, so worried about not shining, not being the center of attention, not getting, quote unquote, what they're entitled to, that they are willing to take anyone and everyone around them down to do that. You know, one of my goals is to get my PhD or PsyD or ED, some kind of D. And I know when I talk to people who've gotten their doctorates, and they talk a lot about the whole dissertation process and how so many times they get into this situation where it's just torture. And the reason it's torture is because the person on their panel was tortured when they did theirs. So they just pass them pain on. That's just the nuttiest stuff I've ever seen. That's the challenge that having 5 generations in the workspace right now is having, right? Well, I had to work 20 years before I got that. Well, I had to do it by hand. Well, I had to, you know, now some of that is true. Some of that is, sweetie, you've been working 2 minutes. I need you to just stand down, learn a little bit, and then you can probably move exponentially past me. But you don't know enough yet to be CEO. so stop, right? But I also don't tell that person, well, in 5 years, I'll think about promoting you. Why? Because of me? Because see, if I'm really counting on me, I know that when I build a team behind me, that gives me more freedom to move. When I build up someone else, that makes room somewhere else for me. Each one teach one, each one reach one. That's the goal. That's what we're trying to do. And you've got to be able to count on yourself, one, to take care of yourself, to ask for help when you need it. Remember, July 16th, the new National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 988, July 16th of this year. The 800 number is 800-273-8255. There is no shame. Go ask for help. Go find your village and ask them, right? Sometimes you just need to go find somebody to talk to, right? Or go find somebody, you know what? I don't want to talk. I just want to go have a meal. I just want to go buy some plants. I'm still on restriction, although I broke restriction and bought some more cucumbers. Find what it is that helps you connect with you so that you can continue to count on you. Who can you talk to? Who can you surround yourself with? Do you need to go seek professional assistance? And do not feel shame about that. And don't feel tied to the first person you reach out to, because there are a number of people with a number of modalities that they use that are helping people and who have a heart for helping people. Find the one that works for you. You are not tied to any one person. Find somebody who works for you. But beyond that, find the things that help you get regrounded. Find the things that allow you to give yourself some grace, because you have got to be able to count on you. When things get nuts around you, you've got to be able to count on you. You've got to be able to count on you. And I know you can. I know you can. All right. So as we end today, one, I highly recommend the book. And no, I'm not getting any kind of plug or any kind of anything for this. Again, I just picked it up in Barnes and Noble. But it's, because I saw it. I just picked it up in Barnes and Noble. It grabbed my attention. The 24-inch biceps grabbed my attention. So again, here's the book. Right? Call me chef. Call me chef, damn it. Chef Andre Rush, R-U-S-H, A Veteran's Journey from the Rural South to the White House. It's really good. Again, it's a little dark depending on where you are, but it's real. And for those of you with corporate trauma, I'm a recovering corporate person. It will ring true for you in terms of some of the toxic leadership and what happens and how that impacts those around you. So it's a great leadership lesson in how not to treat people and how to be strong, how to be resilient, how to use everything you've learned as you grew up as a jumping off point as opposed to a weapon. It's a great book around knowing yourself and being okay with who you are, right? And if you like being in the background and just showing up and being excellent, just do that. And be prepared when you get pushed to the forefront, because that excellence is going to shine at some point. And so be prepared for that, because luck is when opportunity meets preparation. All right, everybody. Thank y'all for tuning in today. I really appreciate it. I love Tuesday mornings. I'm going to go hang out a little bit more with my brother who's in town. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. There's always a choice, and I know you have a choice to spend your time elsewhere. And so I appreciate that you choose to spend it with me. I will catch you in the podcast tomorrow. That drops tomorrow morning. The I think it's going to be 15 minutes this week. The 15-minute podcast on this topic. And then I will be live on Fireside Thursday, 7 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern on Fireside, firesidechat.com/Laurel Rutledge to get access. Have a great week. We'll see you next time. Bye.